Hi, and welcome to Season 2 of Big Sound Small Town, the podcast that spotlights the talented and diverse musicians in small towns and communities. This season we're branching out to include the community of people who make it possible for musicians to be able to perform their music, the producers, the recording engineers, the venue owners, and many others, and as always, the small town musicians. Remember, small town doesn't mean small talent. Hear their stories.
Kind of scaring me.
Started. Don't bring it up. Don't make me realize that I'm almost out of luck. Don't get me started. Don't touch the handle. Don't turn the crank. Don't try to floor it, there's just fumes in this old tank. Don't get me started.
Today, Big Sound Small Town is at Catawba Coffee Company in Mount Holly, North Carolina, and I'm with singer-songwriter Douglas Thompson. Hello, Douglas.
Hey, Sandy.
Glad to have you on the show.
Oh, delighted to be here.
Well, let's talk a little music. You're a singer-songwriter. Did you wake up one day and decide you could write songs? I mean, how did that happen?
It's fairly convoluted path.
I love that.
When I was a little kid, I liked the poetry of Rudyard Kipling and Robert Service.
Okay, yeah.
You know, all the Yukon stuff and
that's great
all that stuff
really.
Reads like a song. Anyway,
it does.
It's got meter and I distinctly remember being in second grade, and my teacher gave me a choice. I could go out for recess or I could stay inside and listen to records. And I stayed inside, and I was really enamored with this Burl Ives album.
Burl Ives?
Absolutely. Goober Peas. And,
I mean, I do know this stuff.
The Harmonious Whale, I think, was another one. But anyway, they were story songs, and
right.
for like, I don't know, I was like 8 years old, 9 years old, and I really loved it. And I think that started my fascination with it. And I got into the string program. They had an orchestra program where I lived. In fourth grade, I started playing upright bass.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
So
in the fourth grade,
you
actually were exposed to that. That's
excellent.
excellent.
It was a half-size bass, of course,
but
they had a full string program. And
where would this have been at the time?
What's that?
What part of the world would this have been?
I was living in Racine, Wisconsin.
Okay, well, that's a pretty progressive city. Yes.
Yeah, it was a big enough city that they had stuff like that, and until my folks relocated 3 years later to a small town in northern Wisconsin that had no string program.
I'm sure. Yeah.
So, but eventually I found a bass fiddle, and probably my sophomore year in high school I was starting to play that again. But then I also got an electric bass. Yeah. And then I realized that the four strings on the electric bass were just the lowest strings on a guitar.
True.
So I got myself a guitar, a chord book.
Yeah.
And at that time, it was Bob Dylan and John Prine and Chris Christopherson and all those guys. And so, but I really wanted. I was a good bass player, and that's what I really wanted to do. And so my guitar playing was always just rudimentary. I wanted to know some chords so I could write, try to write. And I wrote a ton of really, really bad songs.
We all did.
Every time I found a new songwriter, I would try to write everything just like him.
Sure.
And I was bad at all of it, but I kept trying and I kept doing it, and then I had a really bad car accident in my mid-20s where my right hand was cut just about all the way off. So I only have feeling in my thumb. The surgeon set this finger in this way so I could pick a guitar with it.
Oh, that's great.
And
that he did that.
Oh yeah, he was a smart man. You know, he found out I was a musician and a guitar player, and he did his best for me. And so I still played bass for years after that, but I wasn't as good as I had been.
Right, I understand.
I was smart, so I was still pretty good, but it wasn't the same.
Right.
So around that time, I started approaching the songwriting maybe a little more seriously, you know, and by my mid-30s, I was starting to get to where I felt, oh, this isn't bad, you know.
Right.
And so I started playing them for other people, and I got some positive feedback, and so more and more, as a player, I started working on my songwriting more. Then our house burned down.
What? That's a horrible thing.
Well, it was a horrible thing, and but we had a friend in the Charlotte area who was leaving for Hong Kong for a 3-year position, and he had a house sitter lined up, and they backed out at the last minute. And he heard about the fire.
Right.
And he knew my wife and I had visited back in 2004 and really loved the area. And he said, hey, you know, you want to come sit in our house for 3 years and see if maybe you'd like living down here? Yeah. Good introduction and a cheap way to do it.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
So we sat up all night talking and decided, well, okay, let's do it. And so my kids were old enough, you know, one was married, one was in college. It's not like they needed their dad around every day anymore, and so bam, we came down here. We lived in Charlotte for a few years, and the city's great. Met a lot of nice people, but the traffic's insane.
Oh, it's insane.
And I'm a small town boy. That little town in Wisconsin where I've been living at 5,000 people. So we looked around, and we actually settled. We're in Denver.
Denver, yeah, I know all about Denver.
So, which is just a hop, skip, and a jump from Mount Holly. So it's all back roads, and so it's just like kind of being back home, except people say y'all.
Yeah, they say y'all, and the weather's. Although 40 degrees and rain is about as bad as weather gets anywhere.
Yeah, we've been here since 2012, and we're definitely we definitely love the area.
Were you playing in bands at this time too?
There wasn't a big market for original music in central Wisconsin at the time, although oddly enough it's gotten better since I've left. I wonder what that means. But
yeah, we'll let that.
But the whole coffee house thing, it's everywhere now. It's permeated up there too, and but before I left, it hadn't been like that at all. And so I had I played in cover bands mostly. Country rock, western swing, kind of stuff.
As a bass player?
Yeah. I did a 3-year stint in a wedding band when my babies were born.
Right.
Because I needed to
the
make
money. Yeah. I've done the same.
And I hated it, but it was the best money I ever made playing music in my life.
I agree. It is one of the great money makers as a musician.
But we had great times and wonderful bands with names like Country Roy and the Mugs, Dr. Sax and the Maniacs. That was a good one.
Yeah.
And the Dumb Professors. And then the last band before I left, we were called Three Clowns, No Circus. So
yeah, that's pretty fun
and
stuff.
At that time, we were a trio, as you might imagine, and that was pretty much all my own music.
No, by then.
And we played maybe 5 gigs.
Yeah.
Total.
I do understand
But at the same time, I had been managing group homes for folks with developmental disabilities, and so I really didn't have time to gig. I was working crazy schedules, and so music had really gone on the back burner. And so when we moved down here, I was able to start exploring that more. And at first I was pretty intimidated because everybody's so good.
Where did you go first when you were here seeking out music?
The Comet Grill.
Yeah, the Comet,
I actually had met Tom Kuhn.
Yeah, I know you, Tom.
The previous visit, and so Tommy was about the only person I knew in the city. So we would go see him play on Tuesday nights at the Comet, and kind of branched out a little more. There's a couple of blues guys. Do you remember a guy named Sonny Skies?
I know. I don't know him, but I
you know the name?
I do.
Sonny had a really big open mic at Dilworth Billiards called Thunder Thursdays, and he used to always like bug me to come out, and we got to be buddies, you know. Even though I was this folk singer and he was this like R&B guy, but we were pretty good friends, and he liked my songs, and he kept saying, "You should come out and play it." That's pretty intimidating because those guitar players are all really good.
Yeah, they are.
And so finally I did go out, and he was right. I had a great time. A couple horn players got up and sat in with me, and it was a lot of fun. And so that was really encouraging. I was like, okay, well maybe. And Bill Miller, the same thing. He had a really great blues jam at the Bonefish Grill down in Matthews, and he did the same thing. He said, "Man, you guys come out and play. We're trying to open it up so it's not just all blues players." So, so I went and met a lot of really nice people, and
that was pretty much the start.
It was. Well, this is a hilarious story. I have this song called "The Day Spade Cooley Died" about the fiddle player, and
I'm a fiddler, so you know I know.
It's quite a story. Just you know, the murder and the prison time and all of that. And I finished the song, and there was like just a little smattering of applause. You know, it was, you know, the lights but I could look out of the crowd. I'm like, they must have hated this. And I look, but all I can see is everybody has their phones out. And I said over the mic, I said, "Oh, I get it. You guys are Googling Spade Cooley to see if I was lying." And they all were. They all were. Even the sound man. He's like, busted.
Where was this at?
There was a place called the Badfish Grill in Matthews.
Okay.
And it was
funny.
Pretty funny.
Yeah, that's funny. That's really funny.
So then I started, you know, playing a lot of the open mics. Freeman's Pub had a songwriters night. And I really got to meet a lot of people there. That's been a place that's been real good about allowing songwriters to come in. Fantastic. Yeah, that event
perfect
was so
place
good.
to get your craft down.
Yep.
You know, an audience that's kind to songwriters.
Absolutely. You could, if it was something new that you weren't sure of, you could play it there. And
I agree.
And that's how I met Wes and Shane, Wes Cobb and Shane Combs and West Art Video and those folks. And I've worked with them over time. And I did a live album at the Evening Muse, which Wes and Shane were kind enough to videotape for me. So I've got YouTube videos of that show and a live record from it, which turned out pretty good.
Did you play that along or by yourself, or did you have players with you?
I had players with me. Eric Lovell played guitar and produced the project, and his wife Gigi did some singing, and Tom Kuhn played some mandolin. This was before your time, but they had a hot band, the three of them, called the Rank Outsiders. I've absolutely heard some of the Rank Outsiders material, that was the golden era. I know that was what, the 90s?
Yeah, it was.
That was quite a. Dave Childers was roaring there.
Yeah,
Michael Reno Harrell was in town, and
it was a fun part of Charlotte music history, no doubt.
I've been lucky. I've seen some double door black and white videos of some of the shows, and there's a great CD that I think they did at the Double Door on a Sunday that's got the Rank Outsiders and Lenny Federer's band and Dave and Michael doing it. Pretty neat stuff. Great music, and I've always wondered why all those guys weren't really famous and rich.
You know, that was probably one of the prime times of Charlotte music. I mean, the Double Door was rolling, the Charlotte bands were good, and you know, all those people are still around playing.
Absolutely, Bill Noonan. I see Bill once in a while, and boy, what a great player he is.
He is. Good songwriter too.
Amazing songwriter. Get Off My Land is a classic, and so I was just really lucky to start meeting some of those folks. And
those are good people to meet.
And I met Dave Childers. I came and did a song swap with him right here at the shop here in 2013, and I was really nervous because I visited in 2004 and took a copy of that Room 23 album home with me and wore it out, you know, and I thought, this man is a genius, you know, he should be famous. And And then fast forward, I'm sitting next to him trading songs. I kept forgetting to tune, and I was real nervous. But he kept giving me other chances, and we did some more shows together, and spent a little time a couple of years ago. We'd get together every Wednesday and for songwriting sessions.
Sure.
Did that like 4 or 5 Wednesdays, and got a couple of pretty good songs out of it, and it's been a great friendship, and. But Dave's a real mentor to all the songwriters.
Yeah,
an amazing writer. Truly one of America's finest songwriters, I think.
I agree.
In
Plus,
my opinion,
he turns up supporting local radio. I mean, he's good for the community. He's good for the small towns, as well as being a North Carolina treasure.
Absolutely, and he loves Mount Holly, and he loves having music like this here in his hometown, and it was his idea to start having the music here at Catawba, and he was rolling up to doing it every Friday, and then he got real busy with that record a couple of years ago, and so he asked me if I would be interested in taking over, and I did. I don't work. I'm on disability because of a back issue, so it gave me something to do, and
so, do you still host this?
Yeah, we expanded it to Saturdays too.
Okay.
So we've got a lot of songwriter rounds here, but occasionally a band will come in, like Cleveco did. If it's a band that does all original material, they're sure welcome to come in and unplug like you guys did. And you sounded so great, and so we've had a few more of those come through too. The occasional odd touring musician might pop through.
Right.
They've got a gig at some point in the weekend in Charlotte. They might do a Friday or a Saturday here
Something
at the shop.
To back it up. Yeah.
But it's a great atmosphere. The acoustics are wonderful in the room, and the people that come out understand what they're here for, and so the audiences are so attentive.
I thought
so
they
quiet.
were when we played here. I mean,
You can hear it. It's the literal pin drop kind of situation. I've been in here with 50 people packed in here for a show with Dave. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. If it's a quiet song, you won't hear.
That is an unusual circumstance.
So unusual. And even the baristas are great about waiting for the end of the song before they do any grinding. So it's and you can't say enough about Joe and Irene Farr, who run the shop, because I think they probably lose money on every show, but they are so intent on keeping the shop as a cultural center for this little town, and this original music thing that they have going is very important to them, and so they've been really supportive of me and my ideas, and it's just been great.
The thing about musicians is it takes a community for musicians to even to thrive, but even to exist. I mean, without listeners, without places to play, all you would have was playing either for friends or playing by yourself at home.
Absolutely.
So
there's
nothing more fulfilling and nerve-wracking than to do your songs for people. I mean, it's harder for me personally to do my songs for people I know and love than it is for complete strangers.
Right.
I don't know why, and I've been doing it, and they've been hearing them for years, but it always makes me nervous.
I'm telling you that, maybe because they know you a little better.
Yeah,
the strangers, they have no idea what you've been through or where that stuff comes from. But
tell me about your songwriting process. Tell me how you do that.
I wish I knew.
And a lot of... We're going with that because that's the case with a lot of songwriters.
It's always been a case of an idea first, and almost exclusively a lyrical idea. A little phrase will come or something. I might have a story on my mind, a story that I want to tell. But generally, there's going to be a line. It might end up as a chorus line, it might end up as a hook, it might not even be all that important a line, but it's where the song starts anyway, and that gets it going. And then over the years, of course, it's I've been doing this so long now, it's second nature. But I've learned the idea will come. I can't force them. No. I've tried and written some really mediocre,
I sit
bad
in rooms
songs.
And wrote with people where you had, this is what you're doing today, which is It's usually not that productive.
And I know some people can thrive like that. And
Do you co-write often?
Not often.
Yeah.
I've done it with David.
Yeah.
A couple other people. Generally, the closest I'll get is somebody will give me a title, say, "Hey, write this song."
Right.
You know, that's kind of like it's kind of like somebody giving you a punchline and asking you to write the joke that sets it up.
Yeah, it is.
And that's why my dog hates cabbage. And then you gotta
Then you got to sit that up. Yeah.
And it's actually worked out. I've gotten a couple of tunes that way, but I think for the most part, I'm not at the point where I'm seeking that kind of partnership out. And I don't know how good I am at it. If the person I'm writing with is a strong writer, I was like Dave. Like writing with Dave was pretty much okay. Got any ideas?
Right.
And I'd have some ideas, and some of them he'd like them.
Right.
Some of them he was always very diplomatic. I'd give him an idea and he'd look at it, and he'd either go, I think I could do something with this, and he'd put it over there. Then he'd look at another idea and he'd go, why don't you write this one yourself?
That's pretty good. That might be that legal background of his coming through there.
Very diplomatic, but so I'm not opposed to the idea. I don't know if you find this. The older I get, ideas don't come as easily as they used to. Probably because I've already maybe addressed a lot of the things that people
also, let
deal
me ask
with.
you this, and this is one of my beliefs. You're pretty happy these days, right? You realize that once if your life is going well, there's not as much stuff to write about.
That's very true.
And as you get older, your life does, to a degree, improve when you no longer have to worry about supporting a family quite the way you did, or going to work in the morning. I mean, it does change as you get older. But there's plenty of people in bad situations that I'm sure can still write well.
And luckily, I'm blessed with a great ability to hold grudges.
That's great. That helps.
I've got a deep well to draw from.
Well, I mean, I have theories, all kind of theories about songwriters. If they were that great of people, they wouldn't be able to write the songs that they do. I mean, there's a flaw in there somewhere, And I'm talking about myself, but still, my wife told me one time that I would mess my life up just to have something to write about. And for a while, that was probably true.
Well, it almost felt like I would do that, I don't know if I was, I don't think I was intentionally sabotaging myself.
I don't think it's intentional either.
I was just in a spiral, I'll tell you what, after cutting your hand, when you're a pretty good bass player and you cut your hand off, and you're realizing that you're never going to play the bass like you could.
Yeah.
It did. And the worst part of it was, not only did I go into this spiral of depression for a good 20 years.
Yeah, I'm sure I would with it.
I didn't realize it.
Oh, yeah.
So I didn't seek help. Right. I didn't go look. I just self-medicated and acted like an asshole.
Yeah.
Turned into a pretty bad husband. It cost me, my first marriage. And,
sure. I mean, I do understand that. That is a bit of that life too. But then you compound it with your hand injury, and then you've just accentuated
the. Luckily, a couple of years later, I had kids, and that started pulling me out of it because I had to function. I couldn't go to jail.
Right. I understand.
There are things like that. You got to pay your child support, and want to take your kid to the game and all that kind of stuff. And so that helped me a lot. But it's just over time I came to realize what it had done to me,
right.
and what I had let it do. And so, I mean, there's such a long history behind me of mistakes that I've got a lot of stuff to write about. But the trouble is, you can only write about that stuff so much, and you're repeating yourself. And
this is true.
So you're always, I'm always looking for some kind of fresh idea, fresh perspective. It might be an event from history, or it might be a person in the news, or you just got to keep your head cocked. Last year was a good year. I wrote about a dozen songs.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'll hit that this year. I might hit 7.
Well, I have a large category, and I think I'm like most songwriters.
I'm in a bad, bad place. I'm running third in a 2-man race. I've got a bad, bad feeling. I'm in a bad, bad place. 3, 4. I'm in a bad, bad place. I'm running third in a 2-man race. I've got a bad, bad feeling. I'm in a bad, bad place. I took a few wrong turns. I went to church, but all I learned was do it to others or they'll do it to you. And I'm in a bad, bad place. I had a real life saint for a mother. I had Hugo mine for a dad. I was their pride and joy. I was an altar boy. Tell me, how did I turn out so bad? Now if I'm locked up in a basement or flying through outer space, I never get complacent, baby, 'cause I'm in a bad, bad place.
Stuff came from.
It makes you wonder too. I write stuff sometimes and go back and revisit it, or wake up and realize, did I really write that? I don't actually. It makes me wonder where I was at that time. And some of the stuff that I like or have had success with, I wondered to myself, how actually did I do that? Because obviously I haven't repeated it a lot, so it does make you wonder. Bob is right about that, about wondering who that guy was.
I certainly can see it in my own stuff, and it's not that I'd compare myself to Bob Dylan on any level, but I do. I've got songs that are 30 years old that I still play.
Yeah.
But I kind of,
Yeah, I do too. I do the same.
What was I thinking when I wrote that line? How did that even occur to me? And it's.
Bob did change my life as a musician. I grew up in a blues background, and I had a cousin in New York who came home for Thanksgiving with a copy of the Freewheelin' Bob Dylan, and that changed my whole entire life. I realized you could write songs. You didn't have to sing that well, and you could write whatever you wanted to.
Yeah, for me it was that Greatest Hits Volume 2.
Yeah, that's
record.
good. Yeah.
Man, that's got such an overview, and it's all there. Just simple acoustic stuff to some really rock and electric stuff. And
yeah, it is.
I was with 13, stuck inside a mobile. It was like,
that's great. That's great. Yeah. So many of his tunes are just fabulous. He set a pretty high standard for songwriters.
He did. Showed us all how to do it.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
But the main thing I learned was don't try to copy him.
Well, no. Well, people, sometimes I help people. I don't co-write much. I'm more of a song fixer for people, or helper with 13 verses will not work for you. It might work for Bob, but it is not working for you. Bob can sing about something that makes no sense at all. It won't work for you. Right. That's my takeaway from it, because they'll listen to Bob for 13 verses, but they'll not listen to you. They'll go get up and be gone with it, you know. Plus, then the record industry messes that up too for most people. You know, yeah, cut that down 3 or 4 verses and get it into a 2.5, 3 minute format, and I'll listen to it.
I had a cousin who's about 5 years older than me, a wonderful artist. Works to this day as a political cartoonist.
What a cool job. Plenty of material these days.
Oh, yeah, he's wearing them out. But I remember, I was probably about 19, you know, and I played him this song I wrote, and it went on and on and on, and I finished it, put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, Doug, songs have choruses for a reason.
Yeah.
You should remember that.
Choruses, hooks, yeah. I mean, it is sad that an industry has kind of put parameters and limits on songs, but I guess there is a reason for that.
And you know, and really, I think probably for most of the writers, and I do know a lot that are chasing the brass ring.
Yeah, I know a lot of those.
They're younger than me.
Yeah.
I don't have any illusions about any of that. I'm just trying to make art at this point.
Exactly.
You know, I just want to.
Sure.
And as far as recording things like that's for my kids and my grandkids to have something, you know.
Exactly.
Snapshot of Grandpa, you know.
Yeah.
That's my grandpa. He wrote songs.
Yeah.
But I do, you know, in the live setting, when you're able to play them for people, my goal is just to engage them, you know, and if they'll listen, if they'll think, if they'll laugh, then I'm winning. You know, that's the whole. It's the whole point of what I'm doing. A little money is great, but I'm not expecting to get rich doing this.
And you don't have to be in the music business long if you've ever really been in it to realize that you're not going to get rich in the music.
No, how to make $1 million in the music business? Start with $10 million.
Well, yeah. I mean, what do they say? Musicians are the only people that'll put $10,000 worth of equipment in a $1,000 car and drive 200 miles to make $50. I mean, that's the truth.
It is. It's a horrible sickness.
And even if you do it in a high level, then it's still a traveling second, third shift job with no benefits and too much time on your hands to get yourself in trouble.
Oh, absolutely. Hotels lose their charm really fast.
Laundromats lose their charm.
Oh,
you know, I mean,
if you have time for that, otherwise you're washing your socks in the sink.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I like to see people doing it for the craft of it. They generally turn out to be better writers.
Absolutely. As soon as you start worrying about just wanting to make something that you think is good and will last for you, you lose that burden of people's expectations and all those, and that stuff colors your work in a very false way. You know, instead of saying, well, this is how Sandy feels about this. Exactly. This is my take on things. I'm like, well, how do I take my take and make it palatable to a bunch more people? It all gets watered down, and
it does,
and you end up with bad liquor or bad weed or bad food, whatever it is. If you're gonna keep stepping on it to try to make other people like it. I do believe that choosing your words and crafting your songs or rewriting or your songs is pretty important, but once you go into designing every word to fit about a song so that it will be a commercial success, and it may wind up being, it's a heartless song. Oh, I mean, yeah, then all of a sudden you're just,
But there is a craft to it, I mean, without a doubt.
Absolutely, and if there are people, if that is your ultimate goal, if that's what you want to do, if you want to make music that's going to appeal to as many people as possible, I don't put that down.
No, I don't either.
And I do understand that that's in its own way a talent and a craft.
It is.
And I might stop short of calling it art, but to some people it is art. So what can you say? Art's so subjective.
It is. All of the arts, from music to it's like competitions too. I personally do not believe that music is a competition. It should never be a competition. There's plenty of room for everybody.
Well, and really, how can you judge? How the hell do you judge music?
Yeah, I mean, how do you?
Especially since the person next to you just might think that song is the greatest song ever written, and you happen to think it's a piece of garbage.
Oh, well, and the thing is, that is one of the things I've learned over the years. Somewhere, somebody thinks some song that you absolutely hate is the best thing they've ever heard. Of course, that's a good reason for me to continue doing it too. You know? I mean, there's a possibility that something I wrote sometime would touch somebody.
And that's part of the reason why there have been times when I've been kind of reluctant to even play my stuff for people, because it's always been really clear to me that a lot of the stuff that I love, people hate.
Yeah.
So
I was going to ask you how you decide what songs you're going to do on the show.
At this point, it's all whatever I feel like.
Yeah.
I've got a pool of maybe at any time 30, 35 that I feel pretty comfortable with.
Yeah.
If I start trying to get deeper into the catalog than that, remembering lyrics could be an issue.
Oh, it might.
And I don't have the big book.
No,
and I don't have an iPad with me.
I probably should, though, because a lot of times I rewrite the song as I do it because I cannot remember the original line. I mean, I've heard that so many times. Sandy, that's not even the right words to your own song. Well, I can't remember.
I've got all the lyrics cataloged.
Oh, I do
but
too.
I don't haul them around with me.
No,
so.
I don't go out looking at them before I leave. I mean,
And I'm like anybody else. I'm sure the newest ones are my favorites.
Yeah.
You know, if I've got one that I've been hammering on for a while and I think is finished, that's the one I'm probably going to want to play the most.
I asked Steve Earle once what his favorite song was. The next one I'm going to
Yeah.
write. You know, so I mean,
because I play here a lot, what I try to do is just really mix them up.
Yeah.
You know, I'll try to not be doing the same song 2 shows in a row. And there's some there are, you know, and I'll get requests.
you thought about
and I'll
coming
never
up
turn
to
down a request.
Cleveland County and play?
I don't. I've talked to Kevin a little bit about seeing if we
Dragonfly
can
is
find something over there.
Dragonfly would work really well. Maybe I'll get Kevin and. Well, one of the things we are going to do at some point is get the artists together who've done the podcast and have a swap, you know.
Oh, that'd be fun.
You know, so
That'd be a
is
lot
in
of
the
fun.
plans for the early part of next year. But hang on, let's just pause it.
Well, I went downtown just the other night to look around and see the sights. Now, I don't want to sound naive or dumb, but the buildings ain't as tall where I come from. Heard a couple fussing, not sure what about. The guy mumbled something, then I heard a woman shout, "You gotta have pluck in the duck. You gotta have juice in the goose. You gotta have pluck in the duck. Gotta have juice in the goose. If that robin ain't throbbing, you gotta have pluck in the duck." I wasn't sure I heard her right after all. They were yelling, having a fight, so I just walked on, 'cause the night was young and I was on the lookout for a little fun. Past a bar with an open door, I heard the same damn couple that I heard before. She said, "You gotta have pluck in the duck. You gotta have juice in the goose. You gotta have pluck in the duck. You gotta have juice in the goose."
All right, I'm back with Douglas Thompson, drinking coffee and telling tales like we do. So what do you see with the future with your, where are you going with your songwriting?
I'm just trying to get better. I've got a record that's 90% done.
Did I see an article somewhere that said, is it time for Douglas Thompson to do a new
Mark Kemp was really nice. Somebody had bugged him to check out my 2014 record, and he checked it out. I got a phone call from him out of the blue. That's when he was working for Creative Loafing
yeah.
still, and he said, he goes, man, I'd like to do an interview with you. And so he was real kind about the record and asking about whether I had plans for another one. And you know they're expensive, and
yes,
people don't buy them anyway.
True,
and so it's kind of hard to be a working class guy and justify spending that kind of money. But you know, I've been at it and putting aside my gig money, and so like I said, we're about 90% done with it. I'm hoping it's out by spring.
Good.
It's going to be about a dozen songs, and in fact, if you want for the podcast, I'll email you one of the tracks.
Yes, I was going to ask you for something like that anyway.
Absolutely, I could do that.
Yeah.
So you could have a little like sneak peek of what's going to be going on.
Well, I don't give people's whole songs away. I never do that. I run a snippet, tell them where they can get it. That way, it's a teaser to them.
Awesome.
And it's as little as we make on stuff these days. I'm certainly not giving it to anybody. So, you know. However, I do want people to hear what you do.
A little publicity is great too, and it's so yeah. And I'm gonna. One thing about doing these Catawba coffee shows is they work so well for me is because they're total acoustic, and so there's no amplifiers. I've got a really bad back. So hauling even my little PA system can be tough some days. So
best I remember, you don't even need a PA in here.
No, we don't. It's a beautiful sounding room.
Plus the people listen, therefore you don't really have to go.
We're not competing with a lot of conversation. So I love playing here, and I love other songwriters, and so the fact that I can get so many of them a place to play and even make a little money at what they do is real gratifying to me. I like encouraging the younger songwriters. You know,
that's great.
It's real important. Dave and I have talked about this a lot. That it's really just good to know that even after we're done doing it, there's other people that are continuing. You know, that tradition of a wooden guitar and just telling people what you're thinking about it. So I just. I just want to keep being alive and able to do it for at least a few more years.
I hope you are. I'm looking forward to all the new stuff. I researched hard on all the old stuff, so I'm looking forward to the new stuff, to hear what's going on. And I know that you'll continue to write.
Absolutely, I won't shut up yet.
Yeah.
And as you will, and I'm looking forward to getting you down here to do a show, and I wish you continued success with the podcast.
Thank you. It's going well. If we can, you're actually a part of the branching out. It's there's still plenty of Cleveland County musicians, but there's a lot of small towns with a lot of good musicians, a lot of original songwriters, a lot of people doing good stuff in small towns, and people need to know about it. So you're the first of this, and I hope that we'll run maybe a Mount Holly edition or
fantastic.
A Denver edition. I don't know. I haven't figured it out totally, but thank you, and thank you for taking the time to be my guest.
Absolutely, my pleasure, Sandy. Like I said, it's good knowing you, and I've been a fan of your band and your music, and I'm just looking forward to hearing more of what you do, and really continued success with the podcast. And
thank you.
Let's keep rocking as long as we can.
Sounds good. It was my pleasure.
It feels like rain in a northern place where the sky's swirling shades of gray. But I know where the sun shines down on a northern girl in a southern town. The wind is raw, even the air is hard. The land up here has been torn and scarred. The miners took away everything they could. The lumber company made paper from wood, and it feels like rain.